Hello everyone, and welcome to another Star Trek Online video. Today I want to introduce my Durgath. Now this was a reward that I've picked for the event campaign. So I finished this year's event campaign, and from the ship box I have chosen this ship, and I just think she's gorgeous and she is a very fun ship. Now let's talk about what I've done with her. Now, my build here is a bit unconventional, because I have mixed energy weapons with some science damage and pets, and in a way it's spreading herself a bit thin, but there is some method to my madness, and while it's not perfect, this build works pretty well and is quite a bit of fun. So let's start with the weapons. I'm using dual heavy anti-protons. One is a wide arc and the others are just normal ones, they're all crafted. And I have a particle emission torpedo, which is also crafted. Then I'm using the Ketoma deflector for crit chance and some anti-proton damage. I'm using 2 pieces of the Discovery with the impulse engine and the shield. And then I'm using a fleet protomatter warp core, which gives some nice power boosts, but also it gives me 7.5% of my weapon power as auxiliary power and as shield power. And also it is an AMP core, so I get all damage for every subsystem above 75, and I can reach 3 of those in combat without, using any consumables, so that's nice. In the back, I'm using the Power 1 proton beam because it is nice and I like how it looks. I'm using the cutting beam because I like the cutting beam, and then 2 turrets. So nothing too special here. Now in the console slots, I have 2 hangar consoles, one with EPG and one with turn, because this ship's base turn rate is like 5, so it definitely needs some help turning if you want to use cannons on it. Now you could try to do like a beam build or something like that, but it has irradiation lands that I want to use, so I need to point my nose at stuff anyway. So I went with the cannon build. So I have 2 hangar consoles and 4 isomechs, which, 4 isomechs I think are decent enough to boost my my energy damage, and I want to boost my bats a little bit as well. Now these isomechs are all with anti-proton, so they buff my anti-proton damage. Together with the deflector I get a decent amount of bonus anti-proton damage. And we're not done with bonus damage just yet. There is the harmonic yield distribution console, which is mostly here for its passive, increased cannon damage and buffing my pets. There is a similar console that doesn't give cannon damage, but I think it gives kinetic damage or something. That's called like the Swarm processor. It's from a lockbox. Not a very expensive console, so you could use that as well. Mostly it's here to buff the pets anyway. The click ability on this teleports all the pets towards you, and they all unleash like a phaser barrage. Half of the time it doesn't really work. But it's fun to look at if it does work, so there is that. Then I'm using an exotical field exciter, because I wanted some more particle gen on this. And it also has turn rate, right? So I have 2 turn rate consoles, and with that, I'm reasonably enough at turning that I can point my nose at things. I have the Avani console, the Fleet Power Network Array, which gives me more particle gen and maximum aux power, which is only relevant when I use like the red matter capacitor or like an aux battery, because by default I'm not really reaching the maximum aux, but more about power levels later. Now I have the Borg console because some crits, some control expertise, and the 2 piece with the cutting beam. I have the temporal anomaly projector, which buffs physical anti-proton radiation damage, which is pretty nice because I'm using all of those damage types. Like, as I said, this ship has a radiation lens, and you can buff this radiation lens to do some reasonable damage. There is also like a cycled energy charge, so you passively build charges of this that further enhance this lens. So yeah, if you use this lens like fully powered up and get a nice crit in there, that lens can, it's not really, topping the DPS charts, but it's a fun attack that can hit pretty hard, so there is that. Also, the temporal anomaly projector has a fun clicky on it, an anomaly that does anti-proton damage and disables weapons of enemies. It's fun to look at. It's not really the biggest damage dealer, but you know, you can throw it together with your anomalies. Then I'm using the Parasitic Ice, which honestly is not the most useful console out there. I just thought it was fun, but I might replace it. The Parasitic Ice cluster is nothing too special. It does give me more particle generator, and it does give me cannon projectile damage, so the passives are definitely useful, but I could probably find something a lot better for this, which would still fit like the theme build that I'm going for. So I'm considering replacing it, but I mean it works, so there is that. And I have Shield Absorption Frequency Generator because I like to live, and this definitely helps with living. Then I'm just using the standards to douche fighters. On an interesting side note, you cannot mount support frigates on this. Support frigates say any full carrier, and despite having 2 hangar bays, this ship does not count as a full carrier. I mean, I guess it's a heavy dreadnought battle cruiser. But yeah, there is that. Next, let's talk a bit about the traits. As I've said, I like to live. I have quite a few passive traits on this character that help me survive. I got the ablative shell, I've got Context is for Kings, I have repair crews. I also have intelligence agent attaché to help with my captain recharge. I have an unconventional systems, I have a Boimler, and I have whole lot access, which is an emergency heal that triggers if you are on lower hull. I do have particle manipulator, and you can see here it gives me 49% crit chance. 50 would be maximum on this. I'm almost at the 250 particle gen. So if we look at my science stats, I have those are my science stats. I have 245 particle generator, and as you can see, like this console that gives particle gen and this console, they are both not the highest level yet. So if I upgrade them, I'd probably be at the 250 mark. But I'm close enough anyway. So yeah, I have particle manipulator for my exotic damage. I'm also running like fleet coordinator, accurate, and independent wingmate, which, I mean, you know, it's more independent wingmate is more interesting if you have like bigger pets, because only one pet gets the buff. But still, it helps one pet, so there is that. Now the starship traits, and here is where it gets curious, because I am running spore-infused anomalies. And this is where I said this is a little bit of a science ship, a little bit of a carrier, and a little bit of an energy weapons platform, because I have spore-infused anomalies for my science stuff. And I do have Withering Barrage and emergency weapon cycle to buff my my cannons. I am running Superior Air Denial and Repurposed Cargo Bay, which is sort of the hangar part. And then I'm running Ship of the Line, which gives me crit severity and quite a bit, which helps everything. Because I circle 2 emergency powers. Now, Space Reputation, I'm getting more crit. I'm not yet tier 6 reputation on this character, I'm working on it. I do have the auxiliary power configuration, because I have a lot of auxiliary power, and then I have just crit chance and crit severity here. Now let's have a look at my abilities. I do have a cannon scatter volley and a tactical team. I would never leave port without a tactical team. The shield redistribution, the automatic one, is just so powerful at keeping you alive. I have a cannon scatter volley to buff my cannons, and sadly I do not have anything that buffs my torpedoes, but I do have the Avani console. So I guess I do have something, because this will randomly give me torpedo high yields, so there is that. I wish I had one more tactical slot, I suppose, but it works, so there is that. Now what I do have is quite a bit of science. So I have the gravity well scrambled sensors and very code in space. Now gravity well and scrambled sensors trigger unconventional systems, and code in space and gravity well can emit spores from my spore-infused anomalies. Also have two temporal abilities like chronometric inversion field and time collapse. Both of those emit spores as well. So essentially when it comes to spores, some abilities can emit spores and science abilities and intelligence trigger spores. Now I don't have intelligence abilities here, but I do have my science. So if I deploy like timeline collapse, chronometric inversion field, gravity well, and very code in space, all of those 4 abilities will emit spores then every time I trigger science ability, right? So essentially you start with the 2 temporal abilities, then you would throw like a gravity well, and that gravity well would now emit spores from those 2 abilities. Then I could do a very code in space. Now I would emit 3 spores by using that, and then I would do like scramble sensors, which now I would emit 4 spores. And then also the emitter and science team, they both are science abilities, so I can throw them over myself and emit some more spores. So plenty of spores for everyone. Now I also have an emergency power to weapons 3 and emergency power to shields 1, and you could argue that an auxiliary would be more useful, but I do have the red matter capacitor and some aux batteries to eventually buff off my auxiliary, and as you can see here it's already at 106. It will be, or I think 1 higher if I press emergency power to weapons, because I have the warp core that gives some of my weapon power to aux. And also with this configuration I will be above the 75 for the AMP on my warp core on shields, right? So only the engine power will be a bit low, which I can live with. So yeah, I also run a reverse shield polarity, and you could do something different in there. It's just 1 more survival skill because I like living. So there is that. But how about I take this into an elite run and show you how it works. So I'm gonna go for the Nymph Crew patrol, which I think is a nice patrol with some swarms of enemies. The enemy you are facing is random, so we will see what we get. Some of them are a lot more annoying than others. If they subnuclear beam you a lot, you might be in trouble. But I do carry the science team, although in this build I often just spam the science team for spores instead of keeping it for the clear. But of course I could change that if I'm faced with something more nefarious.
Looks like there was a fight.
Should start with my pets here. Now, I can go for offensive configuration. It does reduce the hull healing that I get, but it will help with turning. Also, by the way, my main specialization is intelligence and my secondary is pilot for more turn rate. And who wouldn't want to rock and roll in this ship, right?
Leave enough of their ships for salvage. I'll be under cloak.
Hey. So we've got some enemies there.
He's either the bravest Ferengi ever or the craziest.
So, and you can see all the beautiful spores I'm emitting. I should resummon some pets, and now we have the next group. So let's give them some more spores. Spores for everything. Now, as a side note, by the way, my endeavors aren't progressed that far, so I don't actually get a huge buff from them yet. Because I have been taking a break for a while from this game and I never really focused too much on the past, which I should change. Also, look at all of those beautiful cannons there. I just like carriers.
Well, there's good news, bad news. The Ferengi.
Even if the game thinks this is not the carrier. And as you can see, so far, we are making decent work of those enemies. As I said, like, this is by no means the best or strongest build you can build here, but I just enjoy it. I just enjoy it. Now, I should have used my consoles before the unconventional system triggers, but okay. So I am a slight potato. I should really stop killing my pets, that's just rude. And I haven't fired my lance yet, but as you can see,
Now,
I'm getting to some adequate damage numbers there, so now in the I should have tracked at him. I'm a slight potato at times. I just wanted to buy time to summon more pets. Let's pretend that was the case.
3 words. Gorn Championship Wrestling.
I mean, Gorn Wrestling does sound interesting, I'll be honest.
Birmingham is
But I think I'll decline his bribe there. Now let's fire our lance here. Wait, did it miss? Okay, that was not a good example of the lance, I'll be honest. So, yeah, this is now the part where we just farm everything that spawns. And I do have some lovely anomalies down there, don't I? Should also work on my healing a little bit here. You know, probably even use some abilities. That sounds like the way to go. Give them a few more spores down here, cause everybody likes spores. And as you can see, I don't really have that much of a proper rotation. I'm not that professional. And my pets keep dying. Look, this is all fine, this is all fine. At the end of the day, the enemy goes down, and isn't that what counts? I am sitting inside an awkward anomaly. Okay, so let's get serious here again. Throw out a few consoles and some more spores. And I mean, things are glorious when the Yavani console is running, right?
They're down to a few ships. Keep up the pressure.
Okay, almost got my radiation lens again. Let's see what it does this time. I mean, I missed the damage number, but at least it's a more sizable hit this time. So, there is that. Let's, I don't know, grab some fleet marks. Oh. There is still a ship around despite the mission being over.
Well fought indeed.
Yeah. And this is my ship, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.